In 1975, a developmental psychologist at Harvard named Edward Tronick sat a mother in front of her infant and asked her to do something that felt deeply unnatural. He asked her to stop responding. Not to leave, not to speak harshly, just stop. Hold a still, expressionless face. No smiles, no sounds, no reactions. Just look at your baby and give them nothing back. What happened in the next 2 minutes became one of the most replicated, most cited, and most emotionally devastating experiments in the history of developmental science. Mothers who watched the footage wept. Child psychologists called it the most important 2 minutes in all of infant research. And the findings, published, confirmed, and expanded across 50 years of follow-up studies, permanently changed how scientists understand what babies actually need from the people who love them. If you are a parent or are going to be one, this experiment was run for you. Because what it reveals about your baby's brain changes everything about how you see the ordinary moments of your day.
Welcome to Raised by Science. Today, we are going deep into the still face experiment, what it is, what it found, what the follow-up research revealed, and what it means specifically for how you parent your child starting today. This is one of the most important videos we will make on this channel. Stay until the end, because the last finding is the one that will actually change how you feel about your parenting.
Before we get into the experiment itself, you need to know who Edward Tronick is, because his name is one you should have heard long before today, and almost certainly haven't. Edward Tronick is a developmental neuroscientist and psychologist at the University of Massachusetts, Boston. He has spent over 5 decades studying the earliest moments of human connection. Specifically, what happens in the space between a caregiver and an infant during the first months of life? His central question was deceptively simple. What does a baby actually need from the face of the person taking care of them? Not food, not warmth, not sleep. What does the face provide? The answer, Tronick suspected, was something far more fundamental than anyone had previously measured. And the still face experiment was designed to prove it. The still face experiment ran in 3 phases, each 2 minutes long. Phase 1, normal interaction. The mother faces her baby and engages naturally. She smiles when the baby smiles. She mirrors their sounds. She responds to every gesture. The baby is alert, curious, joyful. They point at things. They look back and forth between their mother and the world around them. They babble and coo and reach out. Everything is working exactly as it should. 2 brains, one enormous and experienced, one tiny and brand new, are in complete synchrony. Then, Tronick asked the mother to stop.
Phase 2, the still face. The mother turns away briefly, then turns back, but this time with a completely blank expression. No eye contact, no smile, no sound. Her face becomes a mask. Everything the baby has learned to expect, the responsiveness, the mirroring, the delight, simply disappears. What happens next is something researchers described as watching a small person lose their footing in the world. Within seconds, the baby notices something is wrong. They try everything they know. They smile at their mother, nothing. They point, nothing. They vocalize, nothing. They reach toward her face with their tiny hands, nothing. The strategies that have always worked, that have defined their entire experience of being alive, have suddenly stopped working for reasons they cannot begin to understand.
Within 60 to 90 seconds, the baby begins to break down. They look away. They turn their body sideways. They hunch forward. Their breathing changes. Some babies cry. Others go silent and withdraw into themselves, a response researchers recognized as shutdown, the nervous system protecting itself from an unbearable input. Phase 3, reunion. The mother re-engages, smiles, speaks, reaches out. But here is what shocked the researchers. The baby does not immediately recover. Even after their mother returns, the baby continues to show signs of distress for a measurable period. The disruption has left a trace. 2 minutes. That's all it took.
When Tronick and his colleagues added physiological measurements to the experiment, the findings became even more striking. During the still face phase, the baby's heart rates spiked. Cortisol, the primary stress hormone, flooded their systems. The autonomic nervous system shifted hard into sympathetic activation, the same fight-or-flight response that in adults is triggered by genuine physical threat. To a baby, the disappearance of a responsive caregiver face registers in the body as a survival emergency.
This makes complete sense once you understand the neuroscience. The human infant is the most neurologically dependent creature on Earth at birth. Unlike almost every other mammal, a human baby cannot regulate any of its own internal states. Temperature, hunger, fear, arousal, without external help. The caregiver's face, voice, and presence are not optional enrichment. They are the primary regulatory system the infant's brain depends on to stay alive and to function. When that regulatory system suddenly goes offline, even for 2 minutes, the baby's brain has no internal resources to compensate. The stress response is not an overreaction. It is the correct biological response to the loss of the only regulation system available. What Tronick had measured for the first time was the neurological weight of a human face.
The original 1975 experiment was just the beginning. Over the following 5 decades, Tronick and other researchers used it as a foundation for a much larger body of work. And the findings that emerged from that work are the ones that matter most for your life as a parent.
Finding 1. The quality of early face-to-face interaction predicts outcomes far beyond infancy. Longitudinal studies tracking children from the still face experiments through childhood and adolescence found that babies who experienced consistently responsive caregiving, the opposite of the still face, showed measurably better outcomes in language development, emotional regulation, cognitive function, social competence, and mental health. Not marginally better, significantly better, across every domain studied.
Finding 2. The still face effect appears in non-experimental settings. Researchers began studying parents who were experiencing postpartum depression, a condition that can reduce a caregiver's capacity for emotional responsiveness without them being aware of it. Babies of depressed mothers showed strikingly similar withdrawal and distress patterns to babies in the still face condition. The laboratory experiment was reflecting something happening in ordinary homes, in ordinary moments, all the time. Finding 3. And this is the one that changes everything. Tronick's team discovered that even the most attuned, sensitive parents failed to respond correctly to their baby's cues approximately 70% of the time. 70%.
The interactions were mismatched. The parent missed the signal, responded too late, misread the need, far more often than they got it right. And yet, those babies developed secure attachment, healthy brains, strong emotional regulation. Because it was not the mismatches that determined the outcome. It was what happened after the mismatches.
Tronick called this process mismatch and repair, and he identified it as the single most important mechanism in early childhood development. Here's how it works. The parent misses a cue. The baby experiences a small disruption. The parent notices, maybe immediately, maybe after a few seconds, maybe after a minute. They turn back. They re-engage. They re-establish the connection. And in that moment of repair, something remarkable happens inside the baby's brain. The stress hormones recede. The nervous system returns to baseline. The heart rate settles. And the brain records something that no amount of perfect attunement could have taught. This relationship is safe, even when it breaks. The world is repairable. When something goes wrong, someone comes back.
Tronick's research showed that it is this repeated experience, disruption followed by repair, that builds what psychologists call the internal working model. The baby's deep, below-conscious understanding of what relationships are, whether they are safe, whether they can be trusted, whether distress will be answered. The babies who developed the most secure attachment were not the ones whose parents were perfectly attuned 100% of the time. They were the ones whose parents came back. Over and over and over again. They came back.
Let me be direct about the modern implication of this research, because Tronick himself has been. Every time we look at our phone while our baby is trying to engage us, we are creating a micro still face. Every time we are present in the room, but absent in our attention, our baby's nervous system registers the withdrawal and mounts the same stress response Tronick measured in 1975. This is not said to create guilt. Tronick has been explicit. The research does not demand perfect presence. It never has. What it demands is repair. The phone is not the catastrophe. The catastrophe would be a world in which parents never noticed, never put the phone down, never turned back.
If you are watching this video, you are not that parent. You turned back. You are turning back right now, at this moment, by caring enough about your child's inner world to spend 10 minutes learning about a 50-year-old experiment in a Harvard laboratory. That impulse to understand, to repair, to return is the entire mechanism Tronick spent his career studying. You already have what your baby needs most. You just needed the science to tell you what it was.
Edward Tronick's still face experiment was not a study about what happens when parents fail. It was a study about what babies are made of, about the extraordinary sensitivity of a developing human brain to the face of the person it loves most. And what it found, ultimately, was not a warning. It was a map back to the only thing that has ever mattered in early childhood: your presence, your repair, and your willingness to keep coming back.
No parenting book, no schedule, no product. Just a face that responds and returns. If this video moved you, please share it with a parent who needs to hear it. And subscribe to Raised by Science, because every week we take the science that changes how you see your child and make sure you actually get to read it. See you in the next one.